Welcome back to part 2 of our chat about underground spirits today. Again, these are 15-minute cheap and cheerful productions. I've been asked by underground spirits to talk about their range. I'm very honored to do that, and especially it's Mother's Day. So we kind of figured, given the pressures mothers around the world have been under lately, whether it's homeschooling or just dealing with a small environment, I thought we'd talk about booze and just keep the mood kind of light for you. So this is again part 2 of 4, and what I'm also going to be doing, I'm saving the clips and I'll go on my YouTube channel next couple of days. So if you can't stay for all of them, you can dip back in and I'll send a link around from my channel so you know where to find them. So let's talk gin. Clearly, subject close to my heart. I'm ready for the moment. I'm okay with social isolation right now, you might say. So I'll take one for the team, shall I, and have a gin or two. Now, I mentioned the last clip, and for the benefit of those just joining us just now, the Australian distilling industry has grown very rapidly, and there's something like 300 gin distillers at the moment and counting around Australia, most of whom are small production. What that means is you've got extraordinary range of styles. And, Fever Trish, hey, welcome back, Mr. Trish, nice to see you. All the right people are here today. Now, I'll sweat a little bit about the styles of gin very, very briefly. I'm not going to get too technical. The way role botanicals kind of play, so that will give us a nice setup to talk about what we mean by these particular gins. And there's 2 we're going to look at today, and the next instalment, the next little clip, is about a very special release they've been working on for quite some time. So anyway, gin. What is gin? Now, there is no regulations in Australia about what is gin. There's regulations going back to 1901 around whiskey and rum and the rest. But there is one key criteria that's understood by distillers, and it evolves around these little fun little berries right here. This little thing called a juniper berry. This is a fresh one. I got hard to track down. And if any gin has to be gin, it tends to need this, at least that, to some extent. I've talked before, I have the privilege of judging gin awards every so often, and there's different types. There's London dry gin, which is not where it's made, it's the style process that it is, and basically once they distill the gin, nothing's added to it afterwards. You might have a style of gin called contemporary or new Western style, which we're going to talk a bit about today, and that's where a lot of excitement is at the moment in terms of lots of different flavours and botanicals and experimentation. You've got barrel-aged gins, you've got slow gin, you've got a very old-school style of gin called Old Tom gin, which is like almost a semi-sweet style, which predates all the others, and a few others. So underneath broad categories, you've got, among the industry, understood kind of ways. What Underground do make these contemporary or new Western styles. And when they debuted back in 2017, they came out with a gin and vodka, which is very sensible. So you've got dog people and cat people, and they don't tend to mix too well. So this is what their gin looks like. Again, it's their new beautiful packaging that's inspired by the urban design of Canberra, which is very clever. So very kind of schmick, contemporary kind of approach to things. But I want to read you something about the distillation process. This is from this great book by my friend David Box. Shameless plug, I'm in it too, so worth a read. But he's got chapters on all distillers around Australia, including Underground. When I talk about the methodology of making their gin, so we talked before, the base spirit comes from sustainably grown wheat. So the same base spirit they use for the vodka, they're going to use for the gin. Beautiful water, fresh from the Snowy Mountains just nearby, so pristine and pure as you can get. And then they use, for the gin making process, I'll break this down for you, and we'll talk to them about this at 12:30 when I'll jump on the chat. Pre-maceration, vapor infusion, then addition of distillates and tinctures post-distillation. And then it goes through a submicron, sub-zero cryofiltration. So what does that mean? I'll break it down for you. So they put some of the botanicals, and what are botanicals? There are things like juniper berry, they might have things like lemongrass, or this is what pepperberry, maybe pepperberry looks like. I mean, it's just like, hold it up like that, and it's a very common. So in the case of their particular gin, they've got here, I'm going to read from the label, lemon myrtle, Tasmanian pepperberry, local source basil, poppy seed, cinnamon, black pepper, angelica root, coriander. So juniper, coriander, angelica, pretty classic London dry kind of botanicals, but then they've added in these local botanicals. Now the deal with doing with strain botanicals is that they can be hard to handle, and they can be hard to pull off. By that I mean, especially like things like lemon myrtle, can be very powerful and take over a spirit. And I see this when I judge spirits, that they can be a bit unbalanced, one or the other, in the attempt to find some personality or create what they call in business a flavour profile. sometimes the gins can be unbalanced by one flavour or one botanical dominant than the other. So back to the process. So the maceration, so they will steep the spirit in with the botanicals, and they might do it separately. We can talk about this when they come back on, because different botanicals may have to be oily or too strong or whatever. So they might just do juniper first, do pepperberry and so forth. It's different for each distill and each process. But basically they macerate them so the spirit takes up those flavours. Then they do a vapour infusion, and that's a very different type. It's more gentle style of distillation than those big classic copper pots you see when it's all kind of bubbling away like a soup stock, kind of condenses and gets cooled and comes back down. Then they'll add a few bits and bobs to it post distillation, and then it goes through a filtration system. And Toby Eklund, who founded Underground Spirits, and his wife, his sister Claudia, who's the CEO, Claudia Ruffley, he's got a medical background. And so they've got a patented process of distillation at the micron level. What does that mean practically? It means that you end up with a very pristine, crisp and closely woven gin. Well, it should. So let's find out. Let's have a drink, shall we? Firstly, we're talking about all this booze. Good evening, everyone. Welcome and morning, wherever time it is. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you're well. And happy Mother's Day. And we're just chatting about the range of Underground Spirits gin. This is part 2 of 4 little quick sessions we're doing today. At 12, I'll be talking about a special release gin they've made recently. And at 12:30, we'll be meeting some of the team who actually make this good stuff. And if you get inclined, you get first. I'll tell you how to buy the stuff later. So this is their basic, their gin. It's a contemporary gin. It's not a London dry gin because they add things afterwards, which is perfectly legit. So what do we get after all that very complicated but scientifically sound? Because again, gin making's a beautiful blend of botany and science and technology. Cheers to you. So on the nose, light, aromatic. You're not getting one botanical dominating the other. So again, that can be a flaw with some contemporary gins, in my opinion. I like them to be much more refined and integrated and what I call closely woven. They kind of complement and balance each other out. So light, delicate, not boozy at all. You don't get a big spirit hit. Cheers. What time is it? Anyway, cheers. Crisp. Flinty, which is kind of the juniper coming through, and the coriander. Light on the palate, very dry finish, and that little pepper hit at the back there, which would be probably the native pepperberry coming through there. But no one, and there's sort of a residual kind of organic, maybe a bit of myrtle coming through the middle. Bottom line is it's quite a light, delicate, so it's very subtle, in other words, and a nice crisp dry finish, and you don't get any boozy volatility at all, which is a result of all that purification process they go through. Gotcha. How would you drink it? Well, there I say it, a nice dry martini any way you like it. Because it's so light and delicate, I take my cue from that and not muck around with it too much. You could even just sip it on ice or in soda or a really classic tonic. And my pro-2 tip around garnishes, to gin and tonics for a minute, is you may want to think about some of those botanicals, which are itemised in the bottle there, and you may want to accentuate one of those flavour notes. So you could add some capsicum perhaps, or some thyme, or a sprig of rosemary, and a really nice quality tonic that's not going to take over. So it doesn't dominate the gin, and some of that beautiful complexity can open up in the spirit. Voila. Let's talk about the next one then. And this is interesting. I'll get the right bottle here. Shiraz gin with Tasmanian pepperberries. So this is how it looks. Bit of, again, nice contemporary style packaging. I mentioned before different styles of gin, like barrel aged gin, and this is one of those. And how that came about, this is my pocket theory, so don't quote me on this. Way before stainless steel, there was only wood barrels. So you're transporting a gin around on a ship or something, it had to go in something or be stored in something. And so depending on what that cask was, it's going to impart some of its colour and flavour, just like a whiskey does. So whiskey comes out clear when they distill it, goes into a bourbon barrel or a port barrel or sherry barrel, and imparts its character over time. Now with gin, you don't want to go to the extent of laying it down for years and years and years. So what they do in this instance is they make the gin a slightly different recipe from the normal gin, and then they're going to, because they want to accentuate and have the spice of the pepperberry. And what I learned about pepperberry from a distiller recently is that, again, it looks just like a little black powder, not too complicated. It's grown quite widely, but it does take on the characteristics of some of the other plants and stuff around it. So the microclimate where the pepperberry comes from makes a big difference. So even in different parts of Tasmania, there's different types of pepperberry in terms of the way the flower profile works. So it's not one size fits all. So when they're making the gin, designing the gin, all these different botanicals really have to come into play, and they'll go for lots and lots of permutations. And we'll talk about their special release in the next session. It could take dozens and dozens and dozens. And at the end of the day, you still want to land a consistent recipe every time you make it. So it's quite complicated. Anyways, so they make the gin, enhance it with the pepperberry, and then they put it in Shiraz barrels. And we've got a great wine region around Canberra, known for its Shiraz and Pinot Noir and things like that. Pinot Gris, quite good Riesling. Anyways, so for about 2-3 months, and you'll see here, I pulled this bottle around, it's colour, and that colour comes from the barrel. And it's lifted from the barrel. And the barrel itself, again, the choice is a conscious choice. The Shiraz will, in theory, if you think about a Shiraz, nice and spicy and full flavoured and rich. You don't want it too long, so different distillers, depending on what the barrel is, 2-3 months, maybe a little bit longer. It just depends, but it's not like a whiskey where you lay it down for years. Let's find out what it's about. So, the sun is over this yard. How's it go? Sun's over the yard somewhere in the world. It's definitely 5 o'clock somewhere. Cheers to mums everywhere. Happy Mother's Day. We're doing this for the Handmade Market and Underground Spirits and all the hardworking mums out there. This one's for you. So on the nose, it's a bit winey, not surprisingly. So you do get those wine notes, that red wine, almost a little orangey, citrusy kind of bright notes. Again, no spirit volatility. So this is kind of their house style, as you're probably picking up and keep going on about it, that the spirit at the base of the underground range is so pure that you're not getting any, it's not like, Russian vodka's we could name. Oh, yum. Imagine, and they'll forgive me for saying this, a really light single malt whiskey. So not as heavy and rich as that, but it's got that heat, residual heat. You've got the spice that lingers, it's sticking around quite a long time. Not rich on the palate, and sort of caramel notes in forward, and lots of pepper spice floating around there. That's quite delicious. I would just drink that by itself, frankly, like a sipping style. So if you don't like whiskey, you don't like those peated whiskies, like the Feroigs and things, you could definitely dig that. They could also be fun in a Negroni. So if you don't know Negroni, it's usually equal parts gin, Campari, and sweet vermouth. That could be a really fun combination. You just dial back the Campari a bit. Or you could do, it'd be fun in a dirty martini. Yeah. Delicious. Not bad. I'm not just saying that. It's really quite fun. Talk about gin. Don't forget, if you've got questions, just dive on and we'll take them and we'll talk about those in the 4th session at midday. So we've talked about the different styles, how to enjoy, and the botanical kind of process. Typically, a gin run can take several hours, depending how big the gin run is. So whether it's a 500 litre still, 1,500 litre still, 3,000 litre still. But it's something you just can't press a button and walk away, like a casserole in a hot pot and hope it turns out for the best. It's the thing about all these the gin makers is that how handmade they are, excuse the pun, and the close attention to detail. And what we talk about small batch spirits, they really are talking about small batches like 300 bottles at a time, 500 bottles at a time, which are then hand bottled, hand labelled, hand packaged, put in a car, taken somewhere and sold. And that's a typical story for most Australian craft spirits. All right, that's a couple of gins for you to mull over. Again, if you want to find out some more, I'm going to pull up their website here. So Underground Spirits, undergroundspirits.com.au, and they tell me that's free shipping. Over $100, which is quite very good of them. And also the Handmade Market Canberra, which is online virtual craft market on today. You can also find Underground Spirits there. So you go to handmadecanberra.com.au and you can shop away to your heart's content and find something special for yourself or your mum. Thanks for tuning in. I'll be back at midday and talk about this new special release.